Just been hanging out with my buddy Dezmond here. It's pretty good. Good to see you.
Man. You too. So you don't know this, but you're actually in my seat right now.
I do know that. That's why I'm sitting in your seat.
Get the fuck up, bitch. Welcome to another episode of the Creative Power Hour. I'm your host, Marcus Whitney, and today's guest, Mighty Max Goldberg. What's up, brother?
I like that Mighty Max. Can we make that stick?
That's the point.
You know,
I give everybody a superhero name when they come.
I've always wanted a nickname, and I remember when I was in like 4th grade, I showed up for baseball practice, and I really tried to make the name Ace stick. So I just showed up, and I said to my buddies that were there, I was like, "What's up?" They're like, "Yo, what's up, Max?" I was like, "Everyone's calling me Ace now." And they kind of looked at each other like, "We're everybody. What are you talking about?" And then like the one kid nobody liked was like, "What's up, Ace?" And I was like, "Shut up, Billy." But it's never stuck. So we'll go with Mighty Max. I like that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in the history of being called Ace has ever called themselves Ace.
I was that guy.
I think, yeah.
That happened.
Maybe that's why it didn't stick, man.
At least nobody's recording right now, so this is off the record. It's great.
All right, we have less than an hour because Max books other things during our blocks because he's so busy. So the way we do this is we do an origin story, and you get to start it any way that you want. But I'd usually like when it's something about childhood.
Sure.
Stuff, and it better have your beautiful brother in it. So
he's a huge part of my story. So I am a Nashville kid, but I was actually born in Bastion. Moved here when I was about 3 or 4 and have incredible memories of childhood in Nashville. What's kind of fun about being in the hospitality space now is growing up, there really wasn't that many things to do in Nashville per se from a food and drink perspective. There were like 5 or 6 restaurants I can remember pretty vividly going to as a kid. And then now that time has passed, I think there's like 140 restaurants that opened last year in Nashville, which is kind of crazy. But
that is incredible.
Grew up in Nashville, had a really great family life. You know, still really, really close to my mom and dad today, which is so lucky. And had a grandfather, Abe Rappaport, who was actually kind of like the quintessential Southern gentleman for me and my brother. We don't talk about it a lot, but Pinewood Social, our little bowling alley concept, was subtly named after him.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he grew up during the Great Depression and kind of saw how bad the world could be. So when he, ended his career and had a little bit of extra money that he could invest in something, the first thing he did was he bought a farm. And his thinking was that if everything kind of goes bad, at least he can feed his family.
Right.
And there was a business on that farm called Pinewood Products. I still have that hat. And so Pinewood, which is the bowling lanes, then actually like Pinewood.
Amazing.
Back to him. So it was kind
Amazing.
of a nice deal. But had great memories with him. He actually, I don't know if this would be appropriate now, but he was so into feeding his family that for every 100 pounds we gained, we get $100. So it was just like my brother and I'd be like force feeding ourselves growing up, trying to gain weight.
That's a good game. That's a good game for boys and their grand. That's a good game.
He was a good man. But very, very close with mom, very close with dad, and then my brother. And we really beat each other up as kids. We always had a mutual respect, but we really beat each other up, and we have.
Now I'm assuming physically, but did you beat each other up in other ways?
It was one of those things where I remember we've always been close. Like he's my brother, but young kids will fight. And I remember one time we had a rule like no punching in the face because we didn't want any marks. And he went for like a shot in the face, and it was like in slow-mo. He was coming at me, and I think he was like, no, like he regretted it.
Breaking his own rule.
And then popped me, and then he's such a sweetheart. After he's like, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? But no, we always had each other's back. And we had an older cousin, Jesse, who's like a brother. So it was really the 3 of us growing up, and incredible aunt and uncle, and just very, very lucky in that regard. Had a great childhood. Went to university school here in Nashville, which is where the kid I mentored from KIPP actually went from 9th to 12th grade, and now he's a rising junior at Georgetown, which is pretty special, but just very, very happy, wonderful childhood.
Awesome. So
did I nail the origin story? Was that good?
Oh, we're gonna keep it going though.
Okay.
So you go to college.
I go to college. Yes, I go to Denver University.
Yeah.
And went out there to try to play lacrosse. They had a really good lacrosse program, and ended up hurting my knee, so couldn't do lacrosse, but joined a fraternity when I got to college, and I was the recruitment chair and the social chair of the fraternity. And some of the parties I started to throw in college, they thought maybe we didn't have enough liability for it. And so I kind of said, all right, nerds, I'm going to go do my own thing, and partnered up with another guy, and we started going to different bars in Denver. Probably shouldn't admit this, but I was 20 at the time, and would say, what do you normally sell on a Thursday night? and they would say X amount. And so we would say, okay, well, how about anything, double that, we get to keep half of. And they thought there's no way that these kids are going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And so we would start to organize all the folks from school, and we'd organize buses from the university. And I happened to be dating a Broncos cheerleader at the time, which sounds like an awful humble brag. It's not intended to be, but like she would bring her squad and they do dances. And we ended up just having an absolute blast. And I did that for 2 years and had great money. I had a golf cart in campus. I had an office. I had an assistant. It was hilarious. And then my junior year, I got involved in the student government. Senior year, ran for student body president and won that election. So I got to be the student body president, which was fantastic, and just had an incredible college experience. Absolutely loved my time in college. Had a TV show in college. I wanted to call it Keg Talk, but they said no. So I named it Happy Hour, which was like a little bit better. But yeah, it was an absolute blast.
Did you drink on the TV show?
No, I was underage, and I never would have had an underage drink. Absolutely. Yeah.
What did you do on your TV show?
We basically just would be sitting around talking about different issues. Then we had little skits, and we had different little performances. It was a dumb little show, but it was just an absolute blast.
Yeah, but it was a way for you to like be your magnanimous self and also like have an audience.
Some people are calling me Mighty Max now. I don't know. It started to catch on. No, we just, it was a fun way to hang out with buddies.
Yeah.
We had a friend who was in the production side, so he'd actually edit the videos, and it was totally hodgepodge and crazy, but it was just fun. We had a good time.
Yeah. So you graduate.
Graduated. And
I mean, on top, you're like SG president, golf cart.
And I got the Red Vest Award.
NFL cheerleader, girlfriend.
That was short-lived, but got the Red Vest Award, which was the university's highest honor for an undergraduate student, which was really special. In college, still to this day, mentor, a guy named Carl Johnson, who was massively influential for me and really taught me a ton of things, but most importantly, all decisions are based on love or fear. And if you make decisions based on love, they're usually rational, smart, good decisions. And if it doesn't work out, at least it came from a place of love, whereas fear can be crippling. And I still apply that to my daily practice in personal and business, and hugely influential. So he's someone who was really close to me in college. I think this university may have assigned him to me because they were so worried that, who is this guy who just got elected student body president and what's happening? But it turned out to be, one of the greatest relationships in my life.
So what was your degree in?
I got a double major in business management economics with a minor in psychology.
Okay. And your plan post-college with that was?
I really didn't have I didn't think college would ever end, right?
Yeah. No, it sounds like you were creating a little fiefdom there. And like
I would meet with the chancellor, who was a great guy. And he said, well, what are you doing after college? And this was maybe in the fall. And I thought, I haven't even thought about that. And so he paired me up with a guy in New York named Bob Dillenschneider, who was my first job, and worked with the Dillenschneider Group for a year, which is where I met my buddy George, who was my first work friend and friend in New York. Fast forward to today, he actually introduced me to his sister Alice, who is now my better half, and it's kind of crazy how the whole thing works out. But he was my first work friend, and we had an absolute blast. And we worked in the MetLife building overlooking Park Avenue, and it was incredible. And then left that job, went over to Reuter Finn.
And what year is this?
This is 2005.
Okay.
So I was in New York 2005 to 2007.
Okay.
And the last 6 months of my time in New York were so special. I mean, if you can in your early 20s, I think it's so critical for people to go spend time in New York.
Yeah.
And I had just the most amazing experiences there. My cousin Jesse and I hosted a weekly party at this place called St. Jerome's, which Lady Gaga used to play at. I mean, not that she would, I don't even know if we overlapped or she'd remember me, but just kind of these fun moments. And that kind of satisfied some of my hospitality desire. But the last 6 months in New York, my older brother Benjamin, who's an older, taller, better looking version of me, would fly up, and we really transitioned from brothers to best friends. I remember it pretty vividly. After my freshman year in college, and he had just graduated, we came back to Nashville, and my mom gave us a couple $100 to go and see Lennox Lewis fight Mike Tyson. And Benjamin and I drove to Memphis together, and I literally remember leaving as brothers.
Oh, that's an epic fight.
It was great
to have seen live.
It was fantastic.
Unbelievable.
It was, and for whatever reason, not that many people went. So we scalped tickets that were just incredible, and we were way up front. I think Justin Timberlake was 2 seats in front of us. It was fantastic.
That's ridiculous.
But we left as brothers and came back as best friends.
Yeah.
That was really a transitional trip.
Amazing.
And so fast forward to New York, and Benjamin was working 100-hour work weeks and just needed a little break. So we flew to New York, and we started talking about 6 months before I moved back to Nashville. And my brother is just such a visionary, and still to this day the hardest working person I know. And he really saw the momentum of Nashville and what was happening, and kept saying, "Hey Max, let's partner up. Let's try to grow this thing." And I think his decision was, I see this momentum. Do I want to work with somebody who has a ton of experience or someone I trust completely? And he went the path of trust completely, and who better than his brother? And we always just had this kind of yin and yang, that I think some of his strengths are my weaknesses and vice versa. And we made the decision in 2007 to partner up. Moved back August 1st, 2007. So I just celebrated my 12-year anniversary being back in Nashville.
Yep.
And what's kind of crazy is Alice, the girl I mentioned before, actually took the picture of my brother and I signing our contract together.
Wow.
So we partnered up 50-50, moved back to Nashville, rented an apartment in the least expensive place in Nashville, which was in downtown Nashville, which is kind of hilarious. And couldn't afford a car, so I walked to work every day. And the first really like 18 months were spent pretty intensely in Paradise Park, learning every single aspect of the business. And we never thought we'd grow to the size company we have now. We really didn't understand the momentum that could happen with Nashville, and a lot of our success, I think, is on the city itself. But we got really lucky and have been able to continue to open up places that we're really passionate about, where we'd be the first people to go, and that's really been our guiding principle.
So when you were, I want to go back a little bit. When you were in New York, because you've talked to me about this before. I mean, Ben is brilliant and a visionary, but you weren't completely sold on moving back, right? Not initially, right?
I fought him on it.
Yeah.
I thought, I got this great job, this great apartment, and this beautiful girlfriend. Like, why would I ever leave New York? This is crazy. And after 6 months, the opportunity to really create jobs, which was something that was really motivating for me, was in our hometown. It was just too much fun not to try. But I fought him on it for a good 6 months, and he persistently kept at it, and got so lucky that he did, because I can't imagine doing anything else now. But I do remember very vividly my mother, who's always been so supportive, was like, I don't know about this. And my father, who's been so supportive, actually flew to New York and took me to Blue Hill, which is this really nice restaurant. And on the table, he pulled out a pen and started writing all the reasons why we shouldn't partner up together. And now fast forward, he says, I'm just so proud of my boys. This is incredible. But no, we didn't have a ton of support. And even in every project we've done, historically, people have always said, you guys are idiots for doing this. This won't work. And if we don't hear that now, I worry that maybe we're not barking up the right tree. But we've always just tried to do things and state our core value of, would we want to do this? Would we be the first people to go here? Are we adding meaningful jobs? Is this exciting to us? And that's all we know.
So let's also talk about 2007 Nashville. In 2007 in Nashville, that was when I started to try to build out, along with other people. You were building out the whole world of hospitality. I was working on building out the tech community here, right? And so I remember what it felt like.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see it, and it wasn't all that evolved. I mean, it was the very beginning of things starting to happen, but it wasn't that evolved. One big question I have was, what was it like being so young in the hospitality space that was pretty dominated by older people, right? I mean, there weren't a bunch of young guns in the space that were launching businesses on Broadway. I wouldn't imagine. Tell me if I'm wrong here. I'm just trying to think back then, and also look at who a lot of the proprietors are now, with the exception of so many of the sort of new things that have popped up. But if I'm thinking back maybe 3 years before that, it seems like even though you guys grew up here, it's still a tall order for you to have that real estate and be trying to do what you're doing down there. Am I?
No, you're right. I remember with Paradise Park, which is kind of a beautiful story of how it came together, but we were on the wrong side of the street. Nobody ever thought you'd cross the street where Tootsie's and the stage were. Right. Merchants, which we have now as well, actually went to prom there, and it was one of the best restaurants in the city, but it had fallen off. We had the opportunity to go back in, but if you can imagine, there was a empty 42,394 square foot building on Lower Broadway.
Yeah.
And the amount of momentum that's picked up, and what I think is the heartbeat of downtown on Lower Broad, there was a empty, dark building. And Shawnee, which is now...
I was about to say, dude, that building...
Honky Tonk Central.
Right.
That's
forever.
Empty
People
forever.
Wouldn't talk about that building, right?
That's that forever. And I really think that there's been so many different factors and so many different people. And folks like Butch Spirit and the convention center and what's happening with the Titans and the Preds. There's been all these things that have built this kind of tidal wave.
Yeah.
And my brother and I were just maybe lucky to have the right surfboards to capitalize on it. But I always say that a lot of our success has been based on the city itself.
Were people in that ecosystem welcoming and supporting?
Benjamin opened Paradise, so he got it open in April, and then I moved back in August. So early days, we flew in for the opening, and we had a blast, but I was just a patron at that point. He would be able to speak better that than I could, but I think initially there was probably some, what's this young kid doing?
Yeah.
But now I feel like for the most part, everyone plays nice together.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I'm so proud of Nashville is that most people see it as a rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
When new restaurants open, we try to send them staff meal, and there's this support, or we would share bands or people to come in and help with the music. That there was this kind of collaborative spirit, which still exists today.
Yeah.
There's definitely some folks that I don't think enter into the spirit of the party, but for the most part, everyone plays really nicely.
So you and Ben often get a lot of the credit for the beginning of a renaissance in hospitality, in food. How do you feel about that? You're still so young. How do you feel about that?
I think we played a very small part. I think that there were so many other people that were doing this way before us that helped pave this path.
Yeah.
I think that we're humbled to be even included in that conversation. I think that we're lucky to be in that dialogue to say that we had any influence in hospitality, but I think there's a lot of other people that made massive strides that we just got to be a small piece of. It's very humbling when anyone says we were instrumental in the hospitality and food scene, but I think we were lucky to play a small part.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely respect you saying that, and I mean, this is no offense. I would say that's exactly right, and also you guys did tremendous work, right? I mean, the quality of the things that you brought to town were they stood out. They stood out, and we didn't have a lot. We didn't have a volume of places, and so every time you all added a new establishment, it was it might have been a percentage. You know what I mean? Like we got 5% more places now in town. Now as you said, 140 new places opened last year. That maybe not as true, but you all also believed in the city too, right? I mean, the city believed in you, but you all also believed in the city, and you gave us so many great experiences that maybe people didn't think we deserved or would support or could handle.
I think when you stop betting on yourself is when you start to die a little bit, and I think that Nashville's done an incredible job of continuing to bet on itself. And Benjamin and I got super lucky to work with some of the most talented people in the world. I mean, Josh Habiger was our opening general manager at the Patterson House. He helped us open up Pinewood Social, and now we're partners together in Bastion. I mean, Matt Toka, our beverage director, was a bartender at the Patterson House. Shane, who's our director of operations, was the first bartender my brother hired. We are so lucky to be surrounded by the most incredibly talented people that execute on the highest level. So it's a true testament to the people we work with, more than I think Benjamin and myself. But we love to play a small piece, and we love the hospitality space. I mean, my job is to influence people, hopefully, in a positive way. If you come in and you've had a bad day, let us help make you better. If you're coming in to celebrate something, we want to help make it the most incredible time you have. And we literally took a page out of Madison Park, and we try to have a dream weaver on staff her only job is to make your experience better. And we are so obsessed with the guest experience, maybe to a detriment of our own personal health. But we really live by that Maya Angelou quote that people may not remember what you said or what you did, but they always remember how you made them feel. And so sometimes people ask, well, every one of your projects is different. Like, none of them are really connected. And what I say is, hopefully, whether you're going to the Catbird Seat for a several $100 tasting menu, or you're coming into the bandbox for a hot dog, you feel warmth, you feel welcomed, you feel appreciated, and that is something that we strive for in every single property. We want to make sure that everyone has that perception of value, that whatever they just experienced, they loved it. Because the reality is, you can do what we do cheaper at home. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing? What canvas are we painting to be able to create that moment for you that you want to come in and be supportive of what we do? And the only people I can't work with are those that would ever make you feel like you're lucky to be in one of our spaces. We're so fortunate that we have busy places, but the only people that we can't work with are those that would ever not appreciate you coming in.
How did you guys meet Josh? I mean, the people who you have had working with you are absolutely rock stars in their own right. And if you've never spent any time in any of the strategic hospitality venues, then you might not know how true that statement that I just made is, but you really have been able to build a collaboration with some incredible people. And I'm trying to be very careful to stop short of saying people who work for you, because that's not the vibe at all, right? These are people who you are collaborating with, and you and Ben collectively are bringing your own yin and yang to the table. But Josh and Julia, these people who you're partnering with people. How did you meet Josh? That's a really special guy. Like, how did you meet him, and was it clear he was going to be the super star that he everyone now knows him to be? Like, was that clear when you met him?
Yeah, and let me be clear. We have over 600 people we work with every day. Not one of them works for me.
Yeah,
we all work together.
Right on.
And I just want to establish that Josh, Julia, Trevor, they're different. Matt, they're different. They're all partners.
Yeah.
They are equity owners in what we do. And so when I think about Bastion, I think about Henrietta Red, I think about Locust, which will be opening up, here shortly. We're lucky to be a part of their vision and their restaurant, which is one of the coolest things in the world. But you asked how we met Josh. We met Josh through the folks that helped us open up the Patterson House.
Okay.
Josh is from Minnesota. His story is insane. He's probably the most humble, talented guy I've ever met. He casually mentioned he had worked in New York, Chicago, in London. Well, he was on the opening team of Alinea, the opening team of Kraft. I worked at the Fat Duck. We had no idea he could cook.
Yeah.
And he wanted to step away from food for a little bit and go into just general manager of a cocktail bar, which he did. And a lot of our opening bartenders at the Patterson House were actually chefs following a recipe. It took about 5 minutes to understand that there was something different about Josh.
Yeah.
And
what was he? Was he in Nashville anyway, or was he here anyway?
No, we got connected to him through our partners who had a place in Minnesota.
Okay.
And Josh had been there, and then he said, "Hey, we're doing this project in Nashville," and they kind of helped connect the dots.
Got it. Okay.
And then within a pretty short time period, Josh became like family, and we had a great run at the Patterson House, and literally the Catbird Seat was created for Josh to cook. If you look at the layout of and I don't say this too often, but if you look at the layout of the Patterson House and then you look at the Catbird Seat, it's essentially the Patterson House for food.
Right.
And it was one of these experiences where Josh and Eric were two opening chefs there, and Jane Lopes, who's now a master sommelier, and dude, our opening team was insane. But they were cooking directly to you. And I think one of the reasons that the Catbird Seat had some success early on is that food shows were really starting to become popular, and people wanted that experience where it's not necessarily a server delivering your food, but the person who is making the food directly in front of you then hands it to you and be like, why does this taste different? It's like, oh, it's the squid ink or whatever it is.
Right,
but
right.
You had that experience, and Josh is just one of the most personable, thoughtful, brilliant, sweet guys ever. And he's a huge part of our success, and a huge part of our success at the Patterson House, the Catbird Seat, the Pinewood Social, and then now his vision at Bastion. And so
in my neighborhood.
In your neighborhood.
Yes.
And I actually got to officiate Josh's wedding, which was really special.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's a fun fact.
That's amazing.
But he's a huge part of our success, and we're just lucky to work with him. And it's the same deal with Julia at Henrietta Red. She's a little different. I've known Julia since first grade.
Okay.
And then our moms actually went to high school together, which is kind of crazy.
That's crazy.
And I remember when I was in New York, Julia was there too, and she was starting her trajectory and became one of the high-regarded chefs, and was working with Thomas Keller and spent time in some of the best restaurants in the country and the world. And then we were really lucky that she wanted to come back to Nashville, and she was part of our opening team at Pinewood. And then she went out to really pursue her own vision, and we kind of started talking. And one of my best friends in the world, this guy Michael Roos, who did the development over in Germantown, he saved the corner restaurant space for us. And for 5 years in Germantown, one of the hottest markets. And luckily, he gave us the chance to go in, and we said to Julia, "Here's your space." And with her partner Allie, we went in and opened up Henrietta Red.
What is the creative process for a new project that strategic hospitality goes? And I know it's not always the same. You've told me the story about Pinewood and the all-day session, so I know they're not. But I know they're not all like that. That one I think was kind of a special one. If you want, you can also tell the viewers, listeners, about that story in particular. I'm interested in. You've done this so many times now. Like, what is that creative process like in general?
Yeah.
Because it seems really fascinating. you'll normally tell me, hey, this is this project that I'm working on. Don't tell anybody. Dead man's talk. That's kind of what you always say. And then like a year later, it'll be done. And
Jim Fike taught me dead man's talk, by the way.
It's a great term. I love it.
He was a great guy, and I live by that. Pinewood I can talk about. I will say that Henrietta Red, Bastion, and now soon to be Open Locust. That's Julie and Josh and Trevor's vision.
Those are your partnerships where you had an opportunity to basically partner with them on their vision.
Yeah, they described the vision. We're like, man, that's super cool. Let's do that. But for Pinewood, Benjamin and I were on a consulting trip in New York, and we met at like 6:30 in the morning to start our work day. We had a coffee, and then after coffee, we had breakfast, and then after breakfast we had another coffee, and then lunch, and then maybe an afternoon beer, and then another coffee, and then you kind of see where this is going. Yeah. And we're working in this hotel lobby, and outside of those doors right there is one of the greatest cities in the world, New York, and we never left. And we realized, man, this was the perfect workspace for us. Yeah. And this was really a third space. I mean, people are coming here to work and to meet and to hang out. And so I pulled one of the service sites. How many people do you think that are in here right now are staying at this hotel? And she said maybe 10%. And so people are really treating this as their third space. And so the Benjamin and I think ordered a bottle of bourbon and started just talking about the idea of how could we create this in Nashville. And then after a few bourbons, I think I woke up the next morning covered in Post-it notes, spooning Benjamin. He was big spoon. And like it said, swimming pool, bowling, bocce court, like what is this thing? And what we really tried to create was this third space. So people of the creative class were trying to do interesting things. It's one of the reasons that we really wanted to be next to the EC, which was really special. Yeah. And we started with this foundation of let's create this area where you can go in and say, I'm starting a leather company. And then Dezmond may be sitting next to you and says, well, I have a hat company. Well, we should partner up. And one of my favorite things is watching companies grow out of Pinewood. And we thought, okay, well, if we're going to do this really great kind of foundational piece of a third space, we got to do really great coffee. And the best coffee we thought at the time was Crema. And so let's do a great partnership with Crema. And we thought, okay, well, if we're going to do coffee, we should do cocktails. And so we took some of the things we learned at the Patterson House and brought them in. And we thought, okay, well, if we're going to do good beverages, we need good food. And so we brought Josh in from Catbird to help us. And then it just kind of spiraled with these other ideas. And people sometimes ask us, well, why bowling? Well, we grew up bowling. And we really wanted to try to extend people's stays where they could come in for breakfast or they could be there late at night. And sadly, bowling is kind of a dying sport. And so we wanted to bring it back. And it's craziness how we ended up getting those bowling lanes and everything, which I don't know if we have enough time for today, but it's pretty cool how it all came about.
It's amazing.
And we wanted to extend people's stays and create this social activity. And bowling does that. And that's why we've done axe throwing at the Downtown Sporting Club. Yeah. Miniature golf at the bandbox is a little bit different because I truly believe that art can change people's lives. And so we took this piece of land in the baseball stadium, and we essentially created a public art gallery. And we went to our friends and said, hey, we've got this kind of canvas for you to paint on. Can you come in and work with us? And it was a lot of local folks. And the reason we did miniature golf is because it's the most approachable thing in the world. From any different socioeconomic background, everyone loves mini golf. Yeah. I don't know a single person. I don't want to know a single person who doesn't love mini golf. I hope both of you guys like mini golf.
Love mini golf. Love mini golf.
This is love mini golf word.
Yeah,
but
love it.
That's why we did it. It extends people's stays. Yeah. And so that's always been kind of a passion for us. But yeah, Pinewood was kind of crazy how it all came together. And I remember trying to describe Pinewood to a reporter on one of these press trips we do, in New York. And I remember watching her trying to take notes, and then she put her pencil down. She's like, so what is this thing? It's like you created this weird like Frankenstein restaurant. And it was really hard to describe early days. But now I think it's one of the more special places for us just because people use it exactly the way that we wanted them to. Yeah. We were really hoping that people would come in and feel comfortable to stay there all day and have a single coffee. Or if people want to come in and do a massive buyout, they can do it. But you go in there at 7 in the morning or at midnight and laptops are open and people are working. People are taking meetings. People are on dates. People are maybe on a first date, a last date, whatever it is. Yeah. But they're using it exactly the way we wanted.
Well, you and I met there.
That's right. I think you still to this day have one of the only, 007 was your tab.
007.
If you go to Pinewood, just put it on 007. That's
no,
Marcus's tab.
That's a serious problem. My credit card is probably still tied to that number. So we met there. Couldn't believe I didn't know you before that, but we met there. And then Jumpstart is one of the companies that was grown out of there.
That's amazing.
There's zero question. And we've done everything from make it known to our employees that it was absolutely a great place for them to work out of, to include ourselves, to the full buyout, like a full day buyout. Yeah. We did that, which was really fun.
You also had this incredible thing you used to do. I don't know if you remember this, but I respected it so much that you were so busy, you would take a meeting at one table and then literally just move to the next table. And it was like Marcus's section. You would just bounce across.
Yeah. Well, you guys were so, I mean, it was my third space. You guys, you know, created that family environment. And, you know, still when I see the people who were servers there, wherever they are in the world, because Nashville's not that big, so I still see them, it's like, you know, we're definitely tight.
Your show was plummeted by having me on, credibility-wise. Pinewood skyrocketed when they're like, "Oh, is that Marcus Whitney? Okay, this place must be legit."
Dude. Yeah, whatever. That's what it was. Whatever. I mean, Pinewood is so successful. I mean, it's almost like, you know, you want things to be successful, and then they're successful, and then you're like, "Oh, look at that! That's awesome!" But it's not quite the same as it was. Yeah. You know, before. Yeah. And I don't want anything to change about it, but that's definitely like my feeling about Pinewood. I'm just happy that everyone else gets to experience it. You know, that people come from out of town and it's on their short list of things that they need to check out.
Well, we've always tried to make sure the first question we ask ourselves every day in every project is, what are we doing today to be a better restaurant? And what are we doing today to push a little bit harder and farther? And how can we impact people? Because again, I think as soon as you stop pushing is when you start to die a little bit. And we've never compromised the integrity of what we do for a quick buck. We've always tried to take the high road. We've always tried to reinvest back into our people or the products or anything we're doing. And as a result, you know, I think maybe we are a tougher group to work with in the sense that we expect more knowledge, more training, kind of more thoughtfulness, and we empower everyone we work with to go and try to impact whoever they touch in a positive way. I mean, our company mission statement is to positively exceed expectations in everything we do. It's a pretty grand statement, and it's the easiest thing and the hardest thing in the world to do.
Super hard to do.
But we obsess over the guest experience.
And how many employees? I mean, I know they work with you, but how many employees are part of the Strategic Hospitality
607.
Okay, so here's my big question for you. What are the most important things that you and Benjamin did to make it feel like when people are engaging with anyone who works at any of your venues, restaurants, that it's almost like they're talking to you? Like how did
we stay connected?
How did you export yourself, right? You know what I mean? How did you take? Because, you know, the idea that you're in hospitality, when you tell me your background, you had this incredible childhood, well, that means you were probably well socialized, right? It probably means you spent a lot of time engaging with lots of people, and then you went through your college career. Okay, it's very clear why you're in hospitality. You have a natural gift for it, and you also were probably very, you know, nurtured to be good at it. But that's different from being able to scale that successfully, consistently for over a decade to the tune of 600 plus employees, right? Sure. And also, it is the hospitality, and I'm sure you guys probably have a much better, retention rate than most, but people are still moving in and moving out and changing, and so it's not like that 600 number is static, right?
Yeah. I mean, we could hire 50 people tomorrow. Right. I mean, we need more folks coming in. You know, what we do is a race without a finish line, and it's a full contact sport where you need to be physically present. So Benjamin and I work incredibly hard to always be there, just to have touches to the staff or to the employee or to the guests that come in as often as possible. We obsess over that communication
Across how
piece.
Many?
8, 9. Yeah.
Across 9 places.
With more on the way, which I'm not allowed to talk about yet. But we really try to empower the staff to feel supported. We have a new hire video. We do trainings. We're constantly in the spaces. Our cell phones are posted in every single restaurant. We encourage staff to reach out. And we're constantly checking in. I think it's something that we've been really fortunate. The people we work with who help execute our vision see it through the same lens, and then they communicate that to the staff. And we've created a culture where we serve food and drink, but I think really what we do is we are a hospitality company that's just so obsessed with customer service. And at that core, there's a lot of pride that can be taken. I can kind of go and try to do anything I can to make this table's day better, and I'm empowered to do so. whether that's giving away a bowling pin without having to check with a manager, or saying, okay, this family has just had this tragic thing happen. What as a team can we do better? The staff gets behind that, and we actually send out all those moments on a daily basis of here were the dream weaving moments from yesterday. And here's what folks did to have these experiences with guests, and we celebrate those and we recognize them.
One of the things I've always loved about you is the way that you communicate about others in your same industry. I don't think I've ever heard you refer to anybody as competition. I've heard you often refer people to go to other people's venues.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me about your philosophy about, and this is sort of going back to the Nashville all the tide rises all boats and all that kind of good stuff. But I mean, what's your philosophy that you live by? Or I mean, these people are these are your friends, they're your colleagues. They are your competition, I suppose, but it hasn't really felt like it, right? I mean, it doesn't seem that they're ever taking business from you. So, there's something that you've got there that I think is worth trying to get at.
I'm humbled to be a part of the community. I mean, I'm if anything, I feel probably insecure talking about folks like Khalil Arnold or Tandy or Pat Martin or Sean Brock. I mean, I'm so grateful that I get to know those people, because they're some of the most dynamic, talented human beings in the world. I can't really cook and I can't really bartend. So I get to be just on kind of the ancillary of helping put together things and putting together the best teams possible. But the fact that I get to know those folks is incredibly humbling and incredible. I mean, it's something that I don't take for granted, and I don't necessarily look at any of them as competition. I look at them as like, man, I can't wait to go and eat that brisket at Martin's, or go have that bread pudding at Arnold's. I mean, I've never done a drug, but I assume that's like the closest I've known. It's like I walk in and I start tweaking. I'm like, give me that bread pudding. But I think that that's the spirit of Nashville, and I think that as folks come in, hopefully they enter into the spirit of the party and understand kind of how we operate as a city, and we'll see. I mean, I think there's some folks, and I don't feel comfortable naming them, who have come in, and it's just kind of like a grab. Like, oh, Nashville's hot, let's just open one, and it's kind of a flyover city and whatever.
You would not be the only person to say that. I mean, I think many people who have lived here, for 10 years or more are seeing that happen, and not just in your space. I mean, they're just seeing it happen, right? I mean, because the city's hot and people have money and they can come in and they can, they can make moves, and they don't feel like this is not all, we're not trying to make a blanket statement, but, you wouldn't be the only one to say that. So
the thing that kills me is when we've had certain folks come in and we recognize their industry, we try to welcome the town, we open arms, anything we can do. Go over, talk to them personally, send out, some things to taste.
The Nashville way, man.
The Nashville way. And then right after the meal, they pass out their business cards to the staff and say, we're hiring. And that bums me out.
That's crazy.
That I hope will stop.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. You are one of the hardest working people I know. You've given that title to a couple of other people now.
My brother surpasses me. But
over the course of I'd put him up there too. You though, you do a pretty good job in some ways, not in all ways. I give you shit about this, but but in some ways, you do a pretty good job balancing. I don't know that you do the best job on a day-to-day basis, but I would say over the course of a year, you get out of town and go fishing. You go on, great trips to great restaurants.
Yeah.
You spend, time with your family. You spend time with the love of your life. You make time for like these really important things. You're part of EO, and I know that's something you've been really committed to, and you have some really strong relationships there. Talk to me a little bit about what your process has been like to get to that balance, because we all have to kind of design that path ourselves. And I'm sure when you started in 2007 working with Ben, you had no idea you were going to be juggling 8 different.
No, they were
right. You know what I mean? With more on the way, right? So talk to me about that. Like, as you continue to grow and have all these additional responsibilities, you're also, an incredible. I think about you as a dad because of the role that you've played in that young man's life. So you're so much to so many people. You're like my, you're like my bro. You know what I mean? So but I mean, I've talked to you about this before, right? You are somebody who a lot of people feel close to, and I think a lot of people depend on.
Well,
right. And so how do you manage to do that? You may be the kind of person that thrives on that and doesn't get drained by that at all. But like, just talk to me a little bit about the balance.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I get energized by people. I love, my relationships I absolutely cherish. And so the folks that are around me that are really close to me and important to me, I always try to make time for. And I think so much of life is showing up and being present. And so sometimes that means an hour less of sleep, or that means sacrificing something else for work, whatever it requires. But I try to really have that balance where I can be really proud of the work I'm putting in. And one of the things I fight the most is I feel constantly guilty when I'm away from work, which is something that I've been really trying to work on, that you do have to have that separation. And we have the most incredible team who executes. And the reality is Benjamin and I are probably the least valuable people in the company. I think we also could say we're the most valuable people.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But for the most part, we have the best team that can execute everything we're trying to do, which allows Benjamin and I to have that rare personal time. I've been trying to make a better effort from it. Sundays are kind of sacred to me. I try to take Sundays off, and I actually did something last week, which was one of the most impactful things I've ever done in my life. And I never thought they'd accept me. I thought I was like having a practical joke played on me, but I got to go to the Aspen Institute for the first of 4 sessions for the Henry Crown Fellowship. Thank you. And I'm around some of the most dynamic, successful, some wealthy, military service, like all different backgrounds, and spending time with them. And we all kind of deal with the same struggles.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of readings and discussion, and the kind of the corporate athlete mentality, if you will, that you and I both train for sport. That if you work out, you need to let the muscle fibers break down and recover before you go back. And I think a lot of times we grind it out and we'll burn ourselves out, and founder's fatigue can set in, or these awful things. And it's no different in business. I think you have to have that separation. And I've actually put on my calendar, dinner with so-and-so, so that nothing gets blocked there, or trying to prioritize to not miss key moments for Brian, my kid, because you don't really get those back. And it's so crazy to me that you talk to anyone and they're on their deathbed and they don't wish they'd worked that extra day of work, and we say it, but we don't live it.
Right.
And so I'm still guilty of it, but I'm trying to do a better job to have that separation. And I get energized by seeing what other people are doing. I think good art is borrowed, great art is stolen. And to be able to see things in other markets that are happening is something that we try to apply and take bits and pieces and say, oh, this is incredible, or this was really cool, or this. And then that helps us ultimately with the business. And I think that you have to have a different perspective. And it's like, I can be looking at you from here, but then if I shift over there, I can see something completely different. And I think that you have to have time away to be able to create that form for yourself.
How important is it to spend regular time with your partner? First of all, like you are breaking 2 really big rules, in air quotes for those who are listening and not watching, in business. One, doing a 50-50 partnership, period, right? Because, the whole Texas shootout thing, right? There's like a million scenarios that say 50-50 is bad.
Yeah.
And then you're doing 50-50 with a family member. So you are double dealing in the bad shit, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? And yet, I really think it's the key to everything that you guys do that's great. You know what I mean? Is that you are best friends, and I don't think I've ever seen you guys come anywhere close to doing anything that wasn't just pouring love all over the other person, right? You know what I mean? Like, and this is not just like when I'm with you. It's like, I'll be at Pinewood, and like I'll see you across the room, and just like watching how you interact with each other, right? So
we're lucky. It hasn't always been that way. There are definitely. When we opened up the Patterson house, we got into a huge kerfuffle, if you will, and I went out and bought him an antique pocket watch, and it said, "We're best friends, brothers, and business partners. Never let us forget that order." And I gave it to him. We beat the hell out of each other. But at the end of the day, there's love and there's trust. And I think that that's a critical piece of it. And a 50-50 partnership is scary. Family dynamics are scary. But I will never be partners with anyone other than my brother. He is my guy. And I'm so lucky to have that. But there's a lot of stories that don't go that way. And it's also something that's a living, breathing organism that I can't just rest and say, well, he's my guy, it's going to be great. It is constant communication.
What is that? Yeah, tell me what that is.
Well, we are lucky that we have a trust. If I know Benjamin is present or a part of something, I know that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And I think he has that trust in me. And we also were smart about it from a business perspective. We do have that Texas shootout. And if for any reason the business relationship messes with the brother relationship, it's an exit. I mean, he's more important to me than any business I'll ever do.
Right.
So we do have that. We also will never open something or do something the other one's not comfortable with. And if you check my phone log, probably 100 phone calls, texts, emails, whatever, are from Benjamin on a daily basis, and vice versa. So we are constantly communicating.
Wow.
We do try to divide and conquer. So he's responsible for some businesses, I'm responsible for some businesses, and then we always work on things together. He's the best operator I've ever met. So if he's in a business, it's going to be tight. It's amazing. I love also looking at some of the bigger picture things and saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this or do that, and kind of form those things together. And we just have a really great partnership. But it's something that, sure, I mean, we'll get into screaming matches or we'll, shove on each other. But at the end of the day, after a really tough, challenging day at work, which honestly is pretty rare. I mean, we're pretty happy in our day-to-day practice, but we'll be laughing. I mean, the fact that I can spend 12 to 14 hours a day with somebody and then be able to step outside and laugh and have fun, it's pretty special.
Yeah.
I mean, this morning I was late, 5 minutes late for a meeting. I walk in and Benjamin's daughter's there. I'm late for the meeting. That's inappropriate. That's out of character for me. I go over, I apologize for being late, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I need 5 more minutes. Let me buy you a cup of coffee. And I get to love on his daughter. And she's in the business running around. She was dancing on the bar, which I wasn't exactly comfortable with. But, we can address that later. But the family dynamics of it can go one of two ways. We're just really, really lucky that it's on the side of good. And I think ultimately we get a better company for it.
Yeah.
And we create that family dynamic. And he's Benjamin.
What are you excited about? Because we're in your last 5 minutes. I need to make sure you get to your next meeting on time.
I'm excited for so many things. I'm excited for the city of Nashville. I'm excited for some of the future things we have coming up. Super excited for soccer. Couldn't be more excited for that. Really excited for what we're doing at the Downtown Sporting Club. Super excited for Trevor's project. I mean, I think he's been to Japan 4 times researching dumplings.
Wow.
So that dumpling spot is going to be super special.
I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, they're without a doubt the best bite of food, dumpling related, I can remember. So
they are kind of like what we had at your party that day, right?
It's exactly
it's that.
Yeah,
those are so good.
Yeah, he's
those are
one
incredible.
of the most talented human beings ever, and so he's going to be doing steamed dumplings, fried gyoza, and kakigori, which is like this Japanese shaved ice, and it's crazy.
The shaved ice was ridiculous.
Yeah, so really,
it's ridiculous.
Really excited for that. Got some other things in the works I can't talk about right now, but super excited for that. And then
you'll tell me once we stop recording.
Yeah, as soon as you hit end, I'll tell you all about it. You got to hit end, Dezmond. Don't mess me up here. All right. And then really excited where things are heading with Alice. Things are pretty special, and really excited for Brian going into junior year. Thank you. I agree.
She's so cool.
She's known me for 14 years, so it's kind of a crazy full circle moment. And then Brian, he's doing great. He interned with Jim Cooper this summer, where my mom is, and
great.
And now he's heading back for his junior year, and hopefully he does well. I can't move him back this year because we have a work commitment, which is a big bummer, but. He'll move back. The last time I moved him in, though, was kind of sad moment because I'm 36, and I like to think, okay, maybe I can hang with these college kids. I'm wearing a Georgetown shirt, supporting my Georgetown love.
Yep.
This kid walks up, and I know the campus at this point. He's like, yo, where Village C West is? I was like, oh, yeah, it's around the corner, take a left. I turn to Brian, I go, do you think that guy thought I was in college? And Brian, in all seriousness, looks at me and goes, no.
It's so sad. It's so sad. We look in the mirror. We don't think we're that old.
No.
We're definitely.
No.
Yeah.
It was
we're
pretty
definitely
brutal.
old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Young at heart.
Young at heart. Forever.
Young at heart.
Yes.
Some call me Ace. I don't know. What's that?
I'll stick with the mighty one.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Bro, thank you so much
Thank you for having me on.
being willing to do this.
Thank you.
And
good to be here.
Yeah, we got to get together soon.
Let's do it. Thank you. Have a good day.
Till next time. Peace.